Good afternoon,
Good afternoon,
sir.
sir.
Hello, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Okay, can you hear my voice?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Loud and clear?
Yes, very
Yes,
clear,
sir.
sir.
Loud and clear,
Yes.
sir.
Thank you very much. And again, thank you very much for being with us, even though it is upon a request. So I would like to welcome all of you for today's special event. It's going to be a special workshop for us. So this is what we are going to go through. We are going to have a course, a short course, or we can call it as a workshop. So today I'll be serving as your moderator. So you'll be hearing a presentation and a sharing from Mr. Ben Collins Linus on this very timely subject. So before we get started, I wanted to take a few minutes of your time to introduce Mr. Ben. He's from IPG Campus Gaya. He is going to share a few things about the application called Unity. So further ado, I would like to welcome Mr. Ben Collins, and the platform is yours now. Mr. Ben.
Thank you, Sir Manalan. Also, thank you to all those who are present in today's workshop. I thank you for your presence and your attendance for today. And I hope that everyone today can learn a thing or two about our workshop today. So without further ado, I'll first share my screen to all of you. Can everyone see the screen?
Yes.
Yes, Ben.
Okay, thank you for your response. Okay, now let's start off with our presentation today. So for today, for our workshop today, we'll actually be learning about an app called Unity. Unity is actually a game engine, a software for us to create games, but we can also use it to create things like for educational purposes. So before going deeper into Unity, actually Unity uses code, meaning you need to learn the skill to code to actually utilize Unity and create projects. So before we continue on with the app itself, the software itself, we'll first look into coding first, because most of you here, I probably assume that most of you may have zero knowledge in coding. So it's only right for us, for me, to introduce all of you what is coding. So let's continue. Okay, so for today's workshop, this is the key things that we'll be looking into. First, we'll be looking into the introduction to coding, which consists of what is code, the types and different types of code languages, how and where to write a code, and where can we actually learn to code. And after the introduction to coding, we'll be continue on to the introduction of Unity itself, on how to install, where to install, what to install, how to create a project. And after all the introduction has done, we'll be actually doing a test run, a sample project using Unity. So I hope that everyone is looking forward for that. So first, we'll be looking into introduction to coding. So what is coding? Coding is basically a way for us to communicate with computers by giving a set of instructions for computers to execute. Because we humans, we have our own language, such as English, Bahasa Melayu, but then computers can't understand human language. They cannot interpret what language are we speaking to them. So with the use of code, we use code, which is a language that a computer can actually understand, and they will interpret it and give an output based on our what we intend the computer to do. So an example use of coding is telling the computer to solve math equations, calculate scores, and of course, for today's subject, create games. So this is the example uses of coding. This is me, competitions I've followed in the past year. So if you look at the right top right corner right here, which I'm showing now, is this here is actually a system, an automatic watering system that I created and coded to water plants automatically. And the thing about it is I actually coded it to turn moist air into water so it can be used to water plants. So basically, I coded it to be autonomous using code. And the next use of code that we can see here, we can create things like robots. And what I'm holding here is a car that can move by itself by detecting black lines. So that's the use of code to tell the car where to move and when to move using code. So let me show a demonstration of what I just said. Okay, so this video is actually a video, the car, that's the car that I was holding in the picture, the car that I actually coded for it to follow the line. So in this competition, I actually joined a competition where we race the cars using the black lines. So, and this competition was actually organized by an NGO in Sabah itself, in KK, called Kinabalu Coders, and it actually is an annual event. So I think in the near future, recently they posted that there'll be another event and it's free to join. So maybe everyone can enroll themselves in this competition and go dive more deeper into coding. So that's an example of use case of code that I myself has used in my life. So next, the different languages of code. So just like humans, we have different types of languages, varies from English, Malay, Chinese, but the same with coding, it also have different kinds of language such as C++, C#, Java, HTML, Python, and Ruby. The logo you see here are the various types of different languages of code. And people often ask, which language of code that I should use? It depends. It depends on your use case of what you use the code for. For example, for creating games, mostly people use C#. And for creating websites, people often use Java or HTML. And for me, if you ask me, what's the easiest language of code? Because for every different language of code, the difficulty is different. And for me, the easiest code to understand for beginners is Python, because it uses normal languages that we speak, normal human language, instead of code syntaxes, which is special characters for the code. So let's continue on. Okay, so how and where do we actually write a code? So the thing about code is you need a specific software to write the code, but for the most part, most of us have the software built in our PC or our laptop. We call them compilers or text editors. The most common, and I bet everyone have this software in the computer, is Notepad. You know, the blue icon thing that no one uses. Actually, the use case for that Notepad is to edit code or edit text, so you can actually code with them. But for coding, I suggest that we use different compilers, such as, for me, I would suggest for beginners is Notepad++, because it actually will tell you if there is a wrong format in your lines of code. Because in coding, formatting is very crucial, because even if you even if you mistake to have an extra space or you accidentally typed a comma, your code will give an output of an error. So this is the various types of compilers: Notepad, Notepad++, Arduino IDE, Scratch, Microsoft Visual Studio, brackets, and many more. So in these compilers, the easiest one I would say is Scratch. This is because Scratch is actually a programming or coding software that allows the user to just drag and drop. And Scratch is actually being taught in primary schools, in secondary schools in Malaysia today. So yeah, this is the different types of compilers that we can actually use to write code. So where can I learn to code? The number one thing I would advise everyone to learn code is to go to YouTube, because remember, YouTube is your best friend when it comes to going for tutorials or picking up a new skill. It doesn't need to be coding, it can be any skill. So YouTube is my go-to website for us to actually learn and dive deeper into code. But you can also go to paid websites such as Udemy, but you have to pay for a subscription, or you can go to code.org or W3 Schools. This website is specifically for people to learn how to code JavaScript or to create their own websites from scratch. And of course, for our use case, I would suggest everyone to refer to Unity's forum, because for every problem in terms of coding for your project, you can always refer to Unity's forum, because for the most part, the problem that you face has already been faced by someone else on the internet. So it has already been solved by someone. So why not use that solution for the problem that has been solved? And GitHub is a place for people to share the code, the source code, for any projects, from making games or just start up things that they create using various types of IDEs, compilers, and something like that. So yeah, that's where you can actually learn to code. But you can always Google, where can I learn to code, how to code. So yeah. So for the question that people ask, is coding hard? It depends. But before we come into a conclusion whether coding is hard or not, let me show you something to give you an idea whether coding is hard or not. So as you can see from the video today, people expect that for programmers and coders that we type lines and lines of code, just as we see in the Matrix, the movie where they type a lot of ones and zeros. But the reality of coding and programming is, most part, you'll always be copy pasting from others' code. I'm not telling anyone to steal someone's code, but for me, in my opinion, it's way easier for someone to pick up the skill of coding and learn to code by copy pasting an existing code. And from there, after you copy pasted a certain code, you can play around with the values, the indexes, the syntaxes, and just edit things inside the code yourself and compile it. And look what output has came out from you editing the code. So for me, that's how I learned to code myself, and I find it way more easier than reading into manuals and looking for technical stuff of what every index is needed for, is the function of every index and syntax is for. But referring to these official manuals and technical stuff is still needed, because you need to actually understand what each syntax actually mean and do. So far, anyone has any questions? Because I feel like I was a bit too fast. Anyone has any questions? You can just turn on your microphone, or you can just type in the comment section.
Hello, Ben.
Yes.
This is Jessie.
Okay.
I was just wondering, can you explain a little bit about the Ruby? What do you call it? Just not the Ruby.
Oh, the Ruby one?
Yeah.
Okay. Just as I mentioned before, there are many types of coding languages, and Ruby is actually a type of coding languages other than C++, C Sharp, and something like that. So it's actually a type of coding language that you can learn and use. Yeah.
So how difficult it is when someone wants to learn Ruby? I mean, the perbandingan between Python and Ruby.
Between Python and Ruby, I think I'm not the perfect person to answer this question, but it depends on you for the use case. For Ruby, I'm not so sure what the use is. It is a type of language because I mentioned before that every language of code has its own use case. Whether it's easy or not, if we bandingkan it between Python, if we compare it with Python, I'm not so sure because I personally never used Ruby. But you can try to explore the language itself to try and learn it and compare it. Yeah. Sorry if I didn't actually answer your question.
It's okay, Ben. I actually get the gist about it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone has any other questions that you would like to ask?
Yeah.
Yes.
So where do you suggest we start with coding application? Do you think Scratch or Notepad plus plus is which one of the two is the best actually?
For me, I would suggest for us beginners, I'd suggest someone to start to code, learn how to code websites, because from there you can refer a lot of things from the internet, and you can actually code using Notepad and Notepad++. Regarding the compilers, I would suggest for beginners to start with Notepad++. It's just Notepad, but plus plus because for Notepad++, they actually have they can actually detect any formatting errors. Instead of Notepad, the normal Notepad, you cannot actually see any output when you are typing unless you compile it and look at your results. So for beginners, I would suggest Notepad++ and try to learn how to code websites first to understand the language. Yeah. I hope that answers your questions. Or for me, how I started, you can pick up something like this. It's called an Arduino Uno. It's actually a microcontroller. You can do a lot of things with this. Remember the project I showed you just now? I actually use this. It uses C language. It's very simple. So if you can buy this, I think you can buy around 30 ringgit for a whole kit with all the parts needed to start learning Arduino. And you can use the Arduino IDE and refer to source code on the internet and learn how to code your first code. So this is, I think, if you would like to do more and buy this kit, you can actually learn code. For me, I would suggest this pathway. But then if you don't want to buy this kit, you can always learn how to code websites first. But for today, we'll learn to code Unity lah. I hope that answers your question.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else has their own question that they would like to ask or want me to clarify?
Ben?
Yes.
I do have one question.
Okay.
Just now you mentioned that Python is it sorry
Python. Python.
Python is it you mentioned just now that it is a more understandable language because it
Yeah.
does not have any special characters, correct?
Yes.
So I was wondering that if you said that Scratch is an application that is being implemented in secondary school, does that mean the language in Scratch is in Python language?
Yes, it's actually Scratch is actually based on Python, but the thing about Scratch is you don't actually have to type. It's somewhat of a puzzle where you connect different puzzles of code. It's like a puzzle. Let's say there's this line of code here and line of code here, and you just if you want it to connect and write the code, you just drag and drop them. And for the values, you type the values in yourself. Yeah, actually, this is a syllabus in Malaysia's secondary school today. If I'm not mistaken, it's being taught in RBT in secondary schools. Yeah, it's an actual subject in Malaysia. Does that clarify your questions, Carmen?
Yes, thank you, Ben. I just wanted to get an idea of what kind of language Python
Okay,
is. Thank you,
okay,
Ben.
okay. Anyone else has any questions?
Okay, thank you very much for the
Okay.
questions. We go to the second session.
Okay,
Ben.
okay, sir. Okay, now we'll be going into the second part of our course. So first, we'll be looking into the introduction to Unity. So what is Unity? Unity is actually a cross-platform game engine developed by Unity Technologies. A game engine, as the name suggests, is actually an engine that drives all the components and assets of a game to make it work. All your animations, your pictures, your code, your scripts that you wrote is actually being driven by the game engine to make it a physical and working game. We don't actually call it physical. Let's say virtually working game. So with Unity, you can actually create either a 2D or 3D game. And the best thing about Unity is it's free. It's totally free. And big companies actually use Unity to create games. And an example of games that were made with Unity is Genshin Impact by MiHoYo and also Mobile Legends Bang Bang by Moonton. And why I'm showing you this is because if you ever played Genshin Impact, you know that Genshin Impact is a vastly open world game with great graphics, but it's also free. Is to show you that Unity is endless. If someone can create a game like Genshin Impact using Unity, why can't you? Why can't us? So Unity, what I'm trying to say is it's endless. It has endless opportunities that you can utilize for your use case. And for us as future teachers, the best use case for Unity is to use it to teach. And of course, the next one is Mobile Legends, the game also created using Unity's engine. And the thing about Unity is that in this slide, I mentioned that it is cross-platform. You can create cross-platform games. What this means is that you can create games whether it is for your laptop, your PC, your Android phone, your iOS, or your Nintendo Switch, let's say a console Nintendo Switch, PS5, or even Xbox. So see, the possibilities are endless. So you can actually use Unity to create games for various types of mainstream platform. I am actually trying to create a game using Unity for Android, and it's free. It's still free, but for iOS, I think you need to pay. But it's the product from Apple that you need to pay, not Unity. So how and where to install Unity. Okay, if everyone has seen the chat, the Google Meet chat, I've actually shared a link to our Google Classroom, and there I actually shared materials that you can use to download. And actually there I actually uploaded the Unity software. But for the tutorial sake, for the workshops sake, I'll teach you how to download, where to download, and how to install. Okay. Okay, step 1 in installing Unity. First, you have to go to Unity's page and click on Download Installer for Windows. Okay, a Unity download existent xx.exe file should be downloaded using the current Unity's version. So go to the website, just click on Download Installer for Windows, or you can download the Unity Hub. From the Unity Hub, you can download Unity. The second step is after you download it, you click on the setup and just click next. After you see this pop up, you just click next and you need to accept the terms and license agreement. Don't worry, it's not something too technical. So step 4, this is the important part. During this pop-up that came out for when you install Unity, you need to choose what components that you want to install. For you to start doing a project, I would suggest you to click on Unity 2018, not 2018, the numbers here is depending on what version of Unity you are installing, the documentation, of course. And for this Unity game development for Microsoft Visual Studios, you can either click it or not, because you can actually use either compilers such as Notepad++. For computers that are not that powerful, I would suggest you try to use Notepad++ instead of Microsoft Visual Studio, because it's a bit heavy and it's quite laggy, even for my laptop. So, but you can always try. But the pros for using Microsoft Visual Studios is that it's already implemented with Unity's library. So even if you type one letter, Unity will show you suggestions of the various libraries that you want to use during you want to go. Such as when you search for something on Google, it will suggest you things that you might want to search for, something like that. So for the next step is you can choose where you want to download and install your file. From here, you can let it be and just click on next, or you can browse and install it somewhere in your computer that you want to a designated place. So for step 6, you go to your Windows search bar and search for Unity. After that, you click on Unity and then you sign in to your Unity ID. You can either create a new one or go the easier path and sign in with your Google. I would suggest that if you want to try Unity, just go with either Google or your Facebook account, because why create more than one account, right? It'd be easier. But if you insist on creating a new ID, you can. So this is the step 8. If you decided to create a new ID, this is the form. You can type in your email, your password, your username, things like that, and create a Unity ID. After you created your Unity ID, you'll be sent an email by Unity to your email that you have filled in the form. So after that, you go to your email and click on link to confirm email. After you click on that, your email has been confirmed, and then you can go back to Unity, the Unity app that you have opened. And step 11, you choose Unity Personal. Don't be confused by this. Unity Plus or Pro it doesn't mean that you won't be able to use Unity to the fullest. But what it means is that Unity Plus or Pro is only the version of Unity for you to create a game, a software that if you choose to commercialize the app and to actually make it a big project. But for our use case, let's say to make it for classes, to make for students, or just to start off, personal is more than enough. You can still publish your game even if you use the personal version of Unity. Nothing wrong with that. So yeah. So I think that's all the things that we need to know from coding to Unity itself. So let's continue to the more important stuff. Oh, sorry. For that's the wrong slide. I forgot that I put that in there. So for slides, that's all. I think the introductions. That is all the introductions for code and for Unity. Now we can jump into Unity itself, the app. So, do anyone have any questions so far? Okay. Yes, you can actually create any types of applications other than games. You can actually. You can explore. Actually, you can. That's what I said. Unity gives you endless opportunities. So yeah, you can actually. Maybe you want to create an app for, let's say, a study app. You can, but then you're limited lah, because you need to give an elements of game. So, but don't be afraid. I'll show you something. It's not quite a game, but it's something of an application other than game lah. So let's move forward to jump into Unity. If anyone doesn't have any questions, I'll start the tutorial how to start your first project. Okay, let's see here. Oops. Okay, first we need to start our new project. You can either click here. If you see here, there's two icons. If after you install Unity, you can see there's these two icons, Unity Hub or Unity here. The numbers here indicates the version of Unity that you have installed. So you can either click either one. So I'll be clicking this, Unity 2020.3. So after clicking onto that icon, you'll be greeted into the Unity Hub. So to create a new project, you just click on New, name your project. Let's put this as a sample project. And here you can choose where do you want to save your sample project. Maybe let's say you want to put it on your desktop, you can do that. Okay, here you can see there are various templates for you to use, but because we'll be using it for educational purposes and we'll be most likely using 2D space, we'll be choosing the 2D template. As you can see here, there's a 3D template for you to create 3D games, but it's up to you. It's quite complex and complicated. So as beginners, I would suggest to start knowing the mechanics of Unity itself by starting off with 2D instead of 3D. So as you progress further, then you can go to implement a 3D game. Okay, then you click on create. So it takes some time to create the new project. So you can see there, that's our data folder for the project we have just created. Or before we dive into the tutorial for using Unity, let me show you a sample project that I have actually created using the Unity's game engine. So this is the app, the game I have created. Okay, so this is my app. So there's my splash screen, my logo made with Unity. So this is the app that I created, the start button, the quit button. So this is a sample. So this is the theme selection screen. You can choose one theme.
This is
Okay.
a cat. Which word spells cat?
Priscilla mentioned before, can I create other than a game? Yes, you can. As you can see, this is not actually a game, but actually somewhat of an another form of exercise for kids or students to learn. So I use it for educational purposes. So let's choose cat. You get correct.
This is
Dog. You get correct.
This is
Fish. You get
so
incorrect.
close. This is
Lion.
this is
Shark. So here I coded using Unity that it will show how many you got correct in the exercise and how many you got wrong, and also it indicates your total marks of 80. So all these buttons and everything, the layout, I created 100% using Unity, but the graphics I actually used Photoshop. But the interesting thing about Unity is that because Unity is so flexible and gives endless opportunities, my software that I created using Unity is not actually limited to that. So as you can see here, the sprite here is saying, try again, bud. So what this means that I cannot click on it now, but let's go home first and look here. It says here, get 100 marks to play with me. So what does actually mean? Let's start again, retry it,
this is
and try to get 100 marks.
this is
Okay, then you can see here the sprite is saying click on me for a quick fun test. So let's click on it and we'll be greeted into the screen, the instruction screen. So when we click on continue, there's this game that I implemented into the software itself. So you can collect things like cherries, and if you can see, I coded that there are two words, cat, C-A-T cat, and K-A-T cat. These words are actually from the exercises that we did just now. If we hit on the right word, the word counter will increase by 1. But if you hit on the wrong word, you will lose 1 life. So let's give you a demonstration of that. And if you hit traps, you also lose 1 life. And if you die, as any other game over. But you can try again. Okay. Let's try to finish this level and show you an overview what I have actually created using Unity. To be frank with all of you, I'm not that good with or too familiar with Unity because I have only started with Unity. But you can see, for someone who has only started to learn Unity, you can see what you can create with Unity. So let's try to finish the game. Okay, this I want to show another feature. If the student didn't collect all 5 correct words and still insists on finishing the line, they can't. They can't finish the game unless they collected all 5 words, and then they can finish the game. So that's the general overview of an app or software that I have created using Unity. So now let's go into Unity and create a new project. So after opening up Unity and create a new project, you'll be greeted into the Unity user interface. It might seem intimidating and empty for now, but let's go through this one by one. Okay. So on the left side here, you'll see it says hierarchy. So what the hierarchy part here, component here is for all the game objects, your audio, your animations, your scripts, your components that you have written for the software is put into. So this part here is to put all your visible game objects to work inside your game. And down here is your assets your assets are actually all the things that you want to include in your game, such as your pictures, your background that you have edited, your sprites, your characters, your music, everything that you want to import. The materials, basically the materials that you want to use for your project. And here on the right corner here is the inspector. In the inspector is actually for you to edit values for your game object or your assets. So let's say you want to resize your game object, you want to put it in the middle or something like that, you can edit the values in the inspector. So up here is the tools. Here is the hand tool. The hand tool is used for you to move the screen. So this is your workspace. Everything that you want to put inside your game is all in here in this workspace. And the hand tool is, as you can see, if I click on the screen, it moves. See, it is moving the plane, not your camera. It is moving the plane. But if you don't want to click on this, you want a shortcut, you can actually click on your right click your mouse on the screen and you can move it. See? Okay, so the next tool is the move tool. The move tool is not to move the screen, it's to move your game object. I'll demonstrate this once we insert our game object into the project. Next is the rotation tool. Again, this is to rotate game objects for you to rotate it 360 degrees. This is the scale tool to scale your game objects, your materials. And this is the rect tool for you to stretch it out maybe you want to stretch it out according to your camera. And this is your rotate scale. So it's a combination of all. So let's say you accidentally click on this thing here. It's 2D. Then it's automatically turned into a 3D space. But because we are working in a 2D project, we don't actually need to use this. So if, let's say you actually accidentally click on the 2D button here, you can always click on it and go back to the 2D plane. Here is the game. This is the output of what your game will look after creating. Okay, this is the scene. The scene is actually the part of your project, the part of your game. Let's just put it as your editor. All your components in the game, animations and your pictures can be edited in the scene tab. But in the game, you can't edit anything because it's actually the final output of your project. So it's the actual product itself. And to play, you just click on here, play. But obviously, because our project is still empty and there's nothing in it, we cannot play. So maximize on play, mute on audio. I think all that is self-explanatory. And here is the aspect. So for the aspect, you can choose what designated screen you want to create it for. Let's say you want to create a game for a 1080p screen, a full HD screen, a 4K screen. It's up to you. But for most cases, for laptops, it is on 1366 by 768. So that's the resolutions for most laptops nowadays. You can actually make resolutions for Androids too, but you need to use this plus sign over here. But to make it flexible, it's best to use free aspect. Okay, after all that has been settled down, the other things, it's too complicated. So we won't be looking into that for today because this is just a brief and simple introduction to Unity itself. So without further ado, let's start by creating a new project. I hope that everyone is ready. Is everyone ready?
Yes, Ben.
Yes.
Ben.
Thank you for the responses. So if everyone is ready, let's start by creating our first project in Unity. So for everything that we need to do in Unity, you will need to first create a new canvas. As the name suggests, a canvas is where, as like painting, a canvas is where you draw and color. So a canvas in Unity is actually a place for you to put all your objects inside the scene screen. So to create a new canvas, you just, in the hierarchy, right click on UI, and then click on canvas. And then you see here, there's this huge rectangle here, rectangle. It says canvas. It appears here. So before we start actually putting things in the canvas, we need to set up the canvas first. So we click on canvas and then we go to this to the inspector. Like I said, the inspector for you is for you to modify or set up your game object. So here we have selected the canvas to make everything work as it intended. So first I put this to 1080 because that's my laptop screen. Okay, we change the render mode to camera. And then if you can see here, the render camera is none. So if you can see in the hierarchy, there's this main camera. The main camera is the user's view of the things inside the game. Let's just put it that the main camera is your eyes to look in the world in the game. So it follows things that is in the game. Let's say if you want it to follow the character, that is the use of the main camera. So we drag and drop the camera into the render camera. And then, as you can see, the canvas has fitted into the camera. After that, you go to this canvas scaler, you change it to scale with screen size. The reason why we do this is because when we create a game, we put objects inside the scene. And as we change resolutions, let's say I created a game for 16 by 10 aspect and I put objects in there. But when I change it into 1080p, the objects will move. It won't stay in the same position that we originally intended it to. So we need to scale the canvas so it will scale with the screen size. What this means is that no matter what resolution is your screen, your object, your background, and everything will always scale with the screen's resolution so that everything will be staying at the place that the original creator intended it to. So reference resolution, you put it based on the screen that the screen that you want it to be, the output, the main output resolution you want it to be. For me, I wanted it to be full HD, so I put 1920 by 1080. Okay. Now, if you see here, there's this match. We type 0.5. So why do we put that? Is because 0.5 means although let's say for every full HD screen, although it says full HD 1920 by 1080, but nothing is perfect in the world. No one is perfect, not even items that was created in the factory. So there will be an offset of measurements. So 0.5 is to compensate with this different errors, which is 0.5 for different panels that were created, because it might seem 1080p, but then it's still different in some way. There are still room for error. So to type in here is to compensate with this problem. So after we created our canvas, now we would like to create our background. So to create a background, you right click on the canvas and then you click on UI and you click on image. Click on image and you can name it. You can name it, let's say, background. Okay, you can name it background. Okay, first, and then we go to click on background. We edit the properties of the background in the inspector. So you can see here. Okay, what we need to do first is to make sure that every time we change resolutions, if we change resolutions, our background will always follow the screen resolution. So what we have to do is click on here, the anchor point. We call this the anchor point. Hold down a shift and click on here. This is for it to stretch according to the screen's resolution. And then just let go of your shift. And now you can see there's this tiny square. This is the background. It's this tiny white square. You can change the color Now it's white. You can change the color. Let's say you want to change it to yellow. Okay, so you can change it to yellow. You can change it to yellow. Solid. Hey, no, that's the camera. Sorry. It's in here. Okay, sorry. Okay. You click on here, color. You choose here. Let's say you want it to be yellow. And then here. And as you can see, the white box has turned into yellow. But then, the white box is too small for the game. So as you can see, it outputted as this small tiny box, but it is our background. So we want it to scale with the resolution of our background. And to do so, all we have to do is select this background here. Select this rect tool, click on it, and you see these 4 dots. Okay, and then you can drag the dots here, the blue dots. Another thing I would like to, a tip from me is that to make, if you can see here, when you move it like this, the dimensions are not uniform. So each sides move in its own way. So if you want it to be uniform, let's say it's a square, and if you scale it, you want it to stay square, all you have to do is hold down Shift and drag. And then it will scale uniformly. So now we want it to scale with our screen. So what we have to do is just scale it with our screen. This white box, this huge white box, is our game camera. So everything that is inside this game camera will be outputted into the game. So take note of that. So you scale it. Now you have your background. Simple. Right. Okay. And for every game, you will of course need a title. And if you want to create a title, again, it's simple. Right click on up, right click on canvas, click on UI, go to text. And then there's this tiny text right here. But first, let's name our game object text into, let's say, title. Okay. Now, here, okay, let's scale this first. Again, click on title, the rect tool. Okay, let's say you click on title and then the rect tool here, and then you don't see the blue dots. The most common problem is because you are in the game tab. Okay, so as you can see here, if I click on title and I click on the rect tool, you don't see the blue circles for you to actually change the size to scale the game object because you are in the game tab. As I mentioned before, you cannot edit anything in the game tab because it's actually the output of your game. So to solve this, it's simple. Go to the scene tab and then title, rect tool, and you can see the blue dots for you to change the size. So first we need to scale it. Scale the title, and if you notice, it's still small. It's still very small because the font size is set to 14. So we can set the font size to, let's say, 50. So it increases in size. I want it to be a bit bigger. So let's go with maybe 76. Oh, I know the best number. Yeah, nice. Okay, so you want the title. You can create a title for your game. So if you want to edit the text object, you just need to click on this, the text. You see the new text there, and you click there, and you just put your text you want to put. So I would like to name our project Word Jumbo. And if you want it to be in the center, just click on alignment and click on this center. And if you want it to be bold, just click on, the bold. Font style to bold. See? Okay. If you want to move it, okay. Just as I mentioned before, this is the move tool for you to move the game object of your project. So after you click on this, you see there's these 2 arrows, right? So if you drag these arrows, either the red one or the green one. The red one is actually an arrow for you to move the game object horizontally or on the x-axis. And the green one, the green arrow, is for you to move the object vertically on the y-axis on a straight line. So it won't go jagged. So it won't go left and right, left and right. It will always go in a very, very straight line. So if you want it to move very straightly, you can use this. Or if you click on it, you can, there's this blue box here. You can freely move it as you want. See? But if you want it to move in a straight line, you can just drag these arrows here. So I want it to be in the center. But if you have OCD and you say, oh no, my game object, it's not in the center. What you can do is click on the object you want to center and go to the inspector. You see here, POSX and POSY is actually indicating that the object is on the what axis on the scene. So now our game object is actually on position X on 5 and position Y on 217. So to make it in the center, we change the horizontal value, which is the x-axis. So you change it to 0 and it goes to middle. You won't see any difference from 5 to 0, obviously. So you have your title and you want to add buttons. I know you want to add buttons. So after you have your title and everything, you want to add buttons. But if let's say you want to change the font, you can change the font. You can download fonts and import new fonts into the project. But I'll show you that later on. So and then next we should create our buttons. Again, right click on the canvas, click on UI, and then select button. Let's name this button Start. Okay, now, another feature is if you double click on the game object, let's say Start, you can find where the button is actually at. So let's say you lose track of your game object. Say the background, it shows you the background. The title, it shows you where the title is. You double click on Start, the button, it shows you where the game object is at. Okay, now, as you can see now, the button is way too small and nobody can see it, obviously. So you need to scale it. Click on the rect tool, hold down Shift to scale it uniformly. Then, yeah, we need it big. It's big now after scaling it uniformly. So, but then the button text here is very, very tiny. So what you need to do is the Start button, you see this arrow here, you click on it and it will drop down the text. So the text is now button. We change it. Let's change it to Start. It's still small, and just like we did before, we can change the font size. Let's turn it to 30. Now it's huge. Yeah, it grew. See, you now have a button, a Start button to be exact. Okay, now you have a Start. Obviously, you need a Quit button. So to create, you can right click and click on UI and click on button. Or as the lazy person I am, you can click on Start, click on your keyboard, Control D, and it will duplicate the button. And then you select the Move tool, and you want it to be centered with the Start button. You can drag the green arrow, which is the Y-axis arrow, drag it down, and you have another button. And if you want to change the name, you right click on the object, game object, and rename. Let's call it Quit. Then you want to change the text in the button. You just click on this, the text, and change it to Quit. Don't need to enter. So now you have your Start screen. Yeah, you created a game. Now you can post it on Google Play Store and become a millionaire. Joking. Okay. Okay. So if you start the game, you can actually try the game, the output of the game, and just click on play. But obviously, the game won't do anything. See, it won't actually do anything. You can't interact with it. See, it's just a simple game that you cannot actually do anything with it. Yeah, so to do so, we want it to change scenes. We want, when we click on start, we actually go into the next scene. And to do that, first, we need to create a new scene. Okay, in the assets, on default, Unity will create a folder called scenes. So double click on scenes. Now this is the scene we are opening now. It's called sample scene. I'll name it home. Click enter and reload. Everything is gone? No. Okay. Wait. Okay. Now we create a new scene. You just, in this asset here, you just right click and create, and then create a new scene, and then it pops up a new scene. And put, let's name it question 1. Okay, my mistake just now, I forgot to save it. It was intended. No, it's not intended, sorry. After you do all your changes, make sure to always save your edits by clicking, pressing on Control S on your keyboard. If not, if you create a new scene or change scenes, all your progress will be gone. So yeah, so let's create again. Sorry for for that mistake of mine. So let's create a new canvas. Let's think of it as a recap for everything. Screen space camera, drag and drop the main camera, scale with screen size, 1920 by 1080, match 0.5. Create background, UI, image, background. Now we scale it up, scale it. Yeah, no, you want to scale it according to your camera size, and you want to change the color. I want yellow, because yellow is my favorite color. Everything is yellow. Now canvas, right click again to create the text, create text. Let's put it as title, and then let's resize it. Resize it. Up. Then let's put it as word jumbo. Yeah. Now we change the font size to, then we move it up, we move it up, and then I want the position to be in the middle. Just put the X value to 0. Then we create a new button, go to UI, go to button, and let's name it to start. And then just, oh yeah, I forgot to mention, as I mentioned before, you don't want the game object to go to be all messed up if you change screen resolution. So what you want to do is click on this anchor point, click on shift, and this is the canvas, the point. So if let's say you put the object in the middle and you want it to stay in the middle, if you change resolutions, you put the anchor point to the middle. So meaning to say, it will always be tied to the middle regardless of your screen resolution. So always keep that in mind and always set the anchor point for every object. So let's scale it up. Too big. No need to be too big. Okay, change it, text, change it to start. Change font to 30. Okay. Want this to be in the middle. Oops. Okay, now you can duplicate. Rename it to quit. Then move it down. Let's change this text to quit. Okay, all done. Okay, again, that was my mistake on my hand, but thankfully it happened because you don't need to go through that. Yeah, intentional, not. So you press down Control S on your keyboard and it is now safe. So now you can safely create a new scene and go to our next scene. So we can go change scenes. Before we create change scenes, let's design our our scene first. So the same as we did before, go to UI, create a new canvas, and then we set it screen space camera. We drag and drop the main camera. Okay, and then scale with screen size 1920 by 1080, 0.5. Click enter. Now, just now I showed you adjust a color background. So what you want to do, if you want to, let's say you have a background that you actually created for this project. So we click on image again. Let's name it background. So this time, instead of just changing the color to yellow, let's change it into an image that we have edited using our editing software. For me, I have created a background. To do so, we need to add items in our assets. So right click. Okay, let's see, now we are in the scene folder. If you want to go outside, you just click on this assets and then you're back out. So what you want to do to create a new folder, create, and then click on folder. Let's name it background. Background. Okay. Now the folder is created, double click, and now it's empty. So you would like to import the background in there. So right click, import new asset, and you search for the background that you want to search for. Here I have it organized already. So this is the background. I click on this tree, import. Okay. Now we want to change the background with our image that we have inserted. So you click on background here and you see there's this source image, color, and material. So let's say you want this cat background, for instance. You click on background, you take this, you drag and drop to this sprite source image. See? But still it's tiny because you need to scale it. Again, scale it according to the white box because that is in the view of the game. So if you go outside, you can see that the output of this game will look like this. So you need to scale within the camera, which is the white box. Ta-da! Now we add buttons because we want to go back to the home screen. So like before, right click on canvas, click on UI, click on button, and let's name this back. So we have the button, text. Okay, now we can move it to the, let's say I want to move it to the top left corner, right here. And again, I want the button to stay there. I don't want it to move whenever I change resolution. So click on the button, the anchor point, and now it's on the top left, right? So click on shift and then click on here, the top left corner. So it will stay there regarding the resolution, as you can see here. And regardless the resolution. See, it won't change, won't budge. Yeah. Now we go back, but then our button is too boring. Have you seen a game have a button like this? If you have, tell me. Okay, let's say you want the buttons to be more interesting and you have an image for the button, a unique image for that you have already edited. You might be asking, can I use my own buttons that I have designed for this project? Yes, you can. So to do so, again, go back to assets, create a new folder, create buttons, a button folder, and then double click on it and import a new asset. let's find our buttons. Let's see here. I have created buttons using Photoshop. Now import it. Now we have our buttons. And to use our picture as the button, we click on the button. Let's say this back button. I want it to go home, so I design this. Back home. And you drag and drop here. You see that the source image, you drag and drop the image from here and into the sprite. See? It changed into the image. So now it's a bit jank, so we need to change it. We scale it. Yeah. See? Scale it. Then to make it uniform, hold down Shift and it will scale uniformly. Well, now we position it where we want it to be. But as you can see here, there's this text button here. That's because under this back button here, there's this text here. So you don't want that. You just click on it and delete. Press on delete on your keyboard and will be gone. Yeah. So now you have a button. But it doesn't actually do anything for now. So to do so, let's write our first code. Before that, we create another folder. These folders are not actually necessary, but it helps to keep everything organized. So let's put this folder as scripts. Double click, double click, then right click, create C# script. That is the language we'll be using, which is C#. And let's name this change scene. Okay, now to edit the script, you just double click on the script and it will open your text editor. For my case has been changed to Visual Studios. To change your preferred text editor, you go to edit, you go to preferences, and then this external script editor you can choose. I have chosen Visual Studio Community, but you can still use Notepad++ regardless. Any text editor you want or have is okay. So let's go back here. Okay, first of all, I know the most of you here, it's your first time to code. First times are very scary, I know. But don't worry, for the first time, we'll take it slow and steady. Don't worry, guys. We'll take it slow and steady, and we learn our first code. But for this code, it's actually only one line, so don't be afraid. So as you can see on the screen now, there's these two void called void start and void update. What this means is that every time you start a project or every time you start a scene, any line in this area between these brackets here will run every time you open the project, but only for one time for the void start one. But if you put something here in the void update, so every time you start a game or project or open a scene, the command will run, but it will continuously run for every frame. So it will continuously update, hence the name update. So, but for our case now, we don't need that. We'll be creating our own void. Let's call it void, and not build. Void, we need to change it to public void change scene. Then put here parentheses, and then because we put string here, and then we put, let's say, change scene. And then we need to put these brackets here for it to tell it this code is only from where. Oh, you see here, the red line here, we cannot be, it is conflicting with our script name. So we need to change it. Let's change it to change scenes. Let's add an S here. So the problem is solved. So to change the scene, you only need this one code. You type application dot load level bracket parentheses change scene, and then semicolon. The semicolon is important because it tells the computer for each line, and the command is until where, so the computer doesn't conflict with the commands. So let's say I have two of these lines, two of this same line. Let's say here, but then I forgot this semicolon right there. The computer will interpret this as one line, regardless of 10 spaces, 30 spaces, a million spaces between. So a semicolon is important to separate the lines of code. And if you see here, change scenes and change scene here, it's up to you. It's not compulsory. It's not something that you need to closely follow. You can name it anything you want. But for libraries like this application.level, you must follow the exact format. Every capitalization of the command you must follow. If not, the computer will not recognize it because it is not in the library of the compiler, because it needs to be in the library. So remember, for every syntax like application.load level, the format must be followed very detailed. So you must really follow it, okay? So now we save, already save. Let's minimize this for now. And now we want it to change scenes. All we have to do now is create an empty game object. Right click on the hierarchy, create empty. Let's call it game. Oh, no. Let's call it change scene. Enter. Click on the object and it's empty. Let's drag and drop our script there. And then you see there, change scene. So to change it, to use this script, you want the button to go back home, right? So we click on the back button. We look for this on click on plus, and then you see none object. So we drag and drop this change scene into this, and we click on this no function. We click on change scene and find the function that we have created, which for our case is change scene. See, you see that change scenes. If you look back here in the script, that is the name of our function. This is called a function, public void change scene. This is a function that we have created, change scenes. So it is referring to that function. So in this box here, we need to type what scene that we want to change it. The reason why we can type in it, because we have set it to be a string. A string is a syntax indicating the variable is actually a letter and not a number and not a whole number. So we put it as string so we can type here. So let's say we named it, let's say our scene just now, we named it home. Okay, for this, it's very crucial for you to remember that if you want to change to scenes, that every format, every capitalization, the number of spaces that you have for your scene is perfectly followed. If not, if you click on the button, it will not find the scene. So formatting is important when you setting up your scene names, okay? So the name was home, but all small letters, and then we click enter. Again, we click save, and then we try. We play. See, it goes home. But now it won't go back because we haven't put the code in there. So to do so, but first let me put, we need to do this first. Let's say if you click on this button and it didn't go back to the home screen. The main reason is because the build settings, the build has not been set up. So to do so, you go to file, go to build settings, then you see here, you either add open scene, which is the scene that is open now, or you go to assets, scenes, and you drag and drop your scenes into here. See? Then you can close it. If let's say you already did everything right, but then it won't go to the scene that you have set it for. So now we want from the start screen to go to the question scene. So what we have to do is we have to we have to copy paste this here. So we have already done it. We don't need to create a new one. So what you can do is hold down Control C and then go to your home scene, click on the hierarchy, and then press on Control V. Control C and Control V is a programmer's and coder's best friend. So it helps a lot. So then here, change scene is already in here. We go to the buttons, let's say the start, search for on click. We drag and drop change scene, then change it to change scene string. We want it to go to our question scene. So remember, the format must be followed. As you can see here, questions, all cap, 1. So you type in question, all caps, 1. Then we do the same for quit. But the quit, we don't have a scene. So how do we do that? We want to close the application. Okay, that's where we need to write another code. We need to write the code to quit the game. So what we have to do is go back to our script, go to assets, script, click on this. Then we create another function. Let's call this public, turn off caps, public, void, let's name it quit. Again, parentheses, this is important. No, I don't want to do that. That is, okay. Parentheses, that is very important. And then open and close brackets. So if you want to close the application, the line of code that you want to type is application dot quit, capital Q, okay? And then semicolon. And then we need the parentheses here. Okay. Then we click, press on Control S save to save the code. So now our script has been updated. We click on the quit button, we click on plus, and we drop again this change scene. We don't need to change anything here because it automatically changes as we change the script, okay? So we go to the quit. Then we have already drag and drop the change scene here. Select the function, change scene. Change scene here, as you can see here, is the name of the script here. So that is the script that we are referring to. And we find the function we have made. We have seen, as we can see here, it is called quit. So that's all. Now you can quit your game. So now let's test it, whether or not you can go from the start screen to the question screen. So let's test it out and click on play and start. Wow, amazing. Can go back. Yeah, great game. Post this on Google Play Store and you'll become a millionaire. Joking. Okay. But obviously you cannot try the quit button because this is only the test. Later on, I'll show you whether it works or not. Okay, now let's edit our question scene and let's make the game. So the concept of this project that I've created is a drag and drop game that let's say there's boxes and there's letters. So that is what I want to recreate here. So what we have to do is we need to import the assets first. So let's create a new folder. Let's call them words, letters and boxes. Double click and then we right click, import new asset, and then go to assets. This is my location. It depends on where you put your assets. So click on letters and box, and this is all the assets I want to import. To make things fast, you can hold down Control, or you can hold down, let's say you start from here and you want all this to be selected at once. You select the first one, hold down Shift, and go to the last one, click. Everything will be selected automatically. And then click on Import. Ta-da! Okay, now we want to add them in the project. Okay, so what we have to do, first, we need to click on Canvas, and then we click on 2D object. We click on Sprite, and then click on Square. That is our object. Let's name this a text box. We don't see it, so you don't see the object here anyway. You can't find it, right? So, like I said before, if you can't find or lose track of the game object, what you have to do is double click on the object you want to find. Wait, see, it will show you where it is. So you want to move it You want to move it. But now if I let go, it will become white because what you have to do is here you have this order in layer, right? So now on the scene, the square is not at the back of the background. So you want it to be in the front of the background. So you change the order in layer to 1. So now it will go in front instead of the back. So now you want to scale it to size. So let's scale it. It's very small. Okay. Now you cannot see that, but you can first import the game object into it. Okay, I put that text box. It's the text box here. Before we drag and drop it into the text box here, we need to change the properties of it. And if not, the image will become so small, only ants can see it. So we change the pixels per unit to 5. And then we click on apply. Then we click on this text box here, and then we drag and drop into this here, the sprite square. See? Wow! It appears. So now maybe it's too big. So what you can do is, again, you can scale it according to what you want it to be. Or for this, the sprite is way too big. So what you can do is make it a bit smaller. Can change the image size to, let's say, 10. Let's revert apply. It's too small now. Let's change it to 7. Yeah, that's right. Can it fit? Yeah. Now we position it where we want it to be. So click on the moving tool. You can move it as you please. You can move it anywhere you want. So I want to put it here, and then voila. Wait. I want it to be a little bit up, a little bit distance, social distancing, guys. So now it's there, the text box. So we don't want to go to the more hassle to do the same thing. So like I said, what you can do is duplicate it. So for this case, we can Control D and then Control D again. There are 3 text boxes now. Now we want to move it. Click on the second one. You see the arrow? Just move it to the right side. The third one, move it to the right side. Yeah. So again, emphasis on copy pasting. It helps you a lot. Okay. Now we have our text boxes. Now we want to include our letters. Okay, we want to include our letters. So the same thing, we right click on canvas, click on UI, and then we click on, not UI, we click on 2D object, we click on sprites, square. Let's move it. Let's change it to order layer 1. Then I want the letter, I want to rename this first. Let's call it C. And then I want C, remember to change the pixels per unit. I want to change it to 5. And then apply. And C, click on this, the game object, drag and drop C. And it appears. Yeah. Okay. Maybe it's too big. So let's change it to 7. But to save time, if you don't want to individually change this pixel per size, you can, again, click on the first item, hold down Shift, and click on the last item, and then change pixels per unit to 7, and click on Apply. So you don't have to do it individually. So now I want to place the C. Let's say I want to place it here. Ta-da! Now we can, again, copy and paste. 1, 2. Okay. Let's rename this to cat. So let's change it to A. Let's put it here. Let's rename this to T. And let's move it here. Let's move it here. Okay. Now it's all C's, right? So you want to change the picture, you just click on the object, game object. Let's say this is A. I want to change it to A. You drag and drop the A letter and put in the sprite area, and it changes to A. The same with T, changes to T. So now we have a new level. But then nothing is happening. You can't actually interact with the game other than going home and going back, right? So what you have to do is we'll be writing a new script. Yes, we'll be writing another script for us to interact. So just now I've mentioned that this particular level will be dragging and drop the boxes and the letters into the right boxes to spell the right word. So to do so, we'll be writing a script. For this script, it's going to be a bit difficult, but it's not too difficult, but it's a bit more lines of code rather than before. But then it's still simple. Don't worry, I'll guide you through it. So let's go back to assets, click on scripts, double click, and then we right click again, and then we click on what? I want to cross my legs. And then we click on create C# script. So then let's name this game. You can name the script anything you want, but make sure it's easy for you to identify which script is script, because it's the script you want to refer back later. Because if there's any bugs in your software system, it will be hard for you to refer it back, to look for it back. So it's better to rename it for an easier name for you to find it back, refer it back later on. So again, double click the script, then you'll be greeted with this, the game script. So for our case right now, we need the void start script. So as mentioned before, everything that is written in the void start will happen every time you open the scene, and for one time only. An update, it will update. For our case, we won't be needing void update, so we can backspace, delete that. But we'll be needing void start. Before we start any coding, we need to declare our variables. Declaring a variable is giving identity for certain components in the script to tell the computer what this variable is for. Let's say you go into a school, right? The school will introduce who is the headmaster, who is the maths teacher, who is the science teacher, for you to identify which teacher is which, for you to refer to for particular subject. So the same with coding. So we declare, let's say this variable is for holding the value of 10, for the value of, let's say, score. So we declare it as score, so that the computer say when they want to refer which component is the score that holds the value of score, it's this one. Okay. So first, let's declare a place, the letterbox place. So what we need to do is we type on private transform capital T, and then we can name it anything we want. Again, declaring, you can put any name you want. You can put Ben, I can put myself, my name. I can put any name, Lara, or any name I want to. Let's put it as C place. The naming doesn't matter in this case, okay? So, but for this case, because we want to refer to this box here, right? So the way we want to do it is we want to drag and drop this game object into the script later on. So to do so, we put a serialized field. We put this here, we type in those angled brackets, and we type serialized field. Then that's that. Now we want to declare other variables. So let's declare our position for our letters. We want to set the start position of our letters here. So we type in private vector 2. Vector 2 is actually the transform or the dimensions of a object. For 2, it means that 2-dimensional. For 3, it is 3-dimensional. So for 2-dimensional, we only will define the width, the x and y axis. The z axis, which is the rotation, is not included because they are only 2 dimensions. That's why we are calling out vector 2. So we want to declare the start position of our letter. So we call it as private vector 2. Okay, why we put private here is because we don't want other scripts to access this component here. Because if we let it public, other scripts will be able to go in this script and use the script, the component, and it will cause errors. So best practice is always to put your variables in private if you can lah. If you are not able, or for your use case you need it to be public, let's say the buttons, you need to access it right from here, you need to be public, you can put it in public. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you don't need features like that, you should always put it in private. So private vector 2, let's name the variable start position, semicolon. Okay, again, emphasis on semicolon to indicate that that's the end of that line of code. Next, we need to declare the center of our letter. So what we have to do is we type private vector 2. Oh, no, we need to declare our mouse position. So we type anything you want. I want to call it mouse position. I want to give the variable name mouse position. Next, we want to calculate the center of the letter and the box. So what we have to do is create a private float delta x delta y semicolon. Okay, why float? Because float here is not a whole number. You use the syntax float to declare a value that has decimals. So because we want to calculate the offset for center, of course, to be accurate, we must have decimal points, right? So we use float. But if it is a single integer, a whole number, we can use int, which stands for integer. So, but for our case, we use float. Okay, so now we need to declare our locked. Okay, so we need to create a public static bool, let's say locked. Okay, so why we put it as a public static? Because later on we'll be referring back to this line of code in another script. So I put it as public so the script can access this line of code. And bool is a syntax for calling out arguments that is true or false. So we want to tell the computer that whether locked, which is the variable I have named just now, is whether true or false. It will return value of true or false, right or wrong. So you're telling, is it true? Is it false? We don't know. Okay, next, we have declared everything. Now we want to tell the computer the current position of the letter. Now the letter is here, right? So you want to tell the computer where is the letter is first put into in the scene. So what you have to do is type start position. Okay, start position here is the variable that we have declared here. Okay, look closely. Start position. We must follow the format. If not, the computer will not be able to find the variable. So we want to put a value in the start position because there is no value in there right now. So we want to tell the computer that the position right now is right here. So what you have to do is equals to transform dot position semicolon. So what so what this means is that transform that position is the current position that it is initially put inside the scene. So doing this tells that the start position is equals to the position it is right now, right here. Okay, so we put it at start because we want the letter position to be there. We want it to be put there every time we start the scene. Now we want a script so that we can move the objects here around, because now, as you can see, we can't do anything. It's static. So what you have to do is you need to write a function. So let's call this private void on mouse down, and we need to first detect the position of the mouse, the center of the mouse. So what we have to do first is we need to calculate the offset center of the mouse. So we type on the variable delta x. Remember, we have declared it here, delta x equals to camera dot main dot screen to world point parentheses input dot mouse position dot x. Wait. Okay, mouse position dot x minus transform dot position dot x semicolon. And then again, copy pasting is your best friend. You can just take this, copy, Control C, and then just paste it, but change it to Y. Okay, I forgot to do one thing. I forgot to tell that to check if the mouse is not pressed down, if the letter was not locked. Okay, so to do so, we type if, we put exclamation mark, locked. This means that locked is false, which means that the letter is yet to be put or locked inside this letter box here. So what you have to do is if locked, then that is that, and then we need to put here the brackets here. So that's the line of code for this function. Now we want to drag it. So we create another function called private void on mouse drag parentheses there, and then we type if the letter is not locked, which is false, bracket, open and close brackets, and then we want to set the mouse position to the center of the letter. So to make the dragging animation more smoothly, we set mouse position. We want to put the value because now we don't have any value in it, is equals to camera dot main dot screen to world point. Remember, formatting is important. And then input dot mouse position, and then trans, and then we want the letter to follow the mouse. So what we have to do is transform dot position equals to new, meaning the new position of the letter, vector to parentheses mouse position dot x minus delta x. For this is the x axis. So now we want to put the y axis. So let's just copy paste this and paste and change it to y. Oh, it's delta y with a capital Y. So, and then semicolon. Remember, semicolon. Okay, now that's for drag. Now we want to put if the mouse is lifted. So you are not clicking on the mouse again. So what you want to do is you type private, we create another function, void on mouse up. So you create that function if. Now we want to calculate math f dot abs is transform dot position dot x minus C place. Did we name it C place? Yes, C place. C place dot position dot x is less or same with 0.5. 0.5 is again to compensate with the error, the minor errors of values, because again the numbers are not actually whole. There are still some decimal points in it. And we just take it for the y-axis again. We just copy and paste it. Okay. To make it easier, just put it here. Okay, we want to change it to y. Open and close brackets. Okay, to explain what this actually does is this is actually checking if the letter, let's say C here, is near to the center of this box here. That's why we are calling out this line of code right here. So next, if then, this tells that, this checks that if the letter is close to the letter box. So what we have to do is, then we will tell the computer to lock the position of the letter. So what we tell the computer is to set the position of the letter to transform dot position equals to new vector 2 parentheses C place dot position dot x and C place dot position dot y. So it will be set in the middle of the text box. And then we want to set locked into true because it is already locked. And then that's for that. So this will tell that if the letter here is near this box right here, it will lock the letter here in place. So we type that, and then it is locked. Else, if it's not near, we type here else, open and close brackets, else transform dot position equals to new vector to start position dot x and start position dot y. So this tells that if it's not near the box, it will go back here. Okay, that's the code. So let's try it. Control S, let's save it. Now we want to include it inside the game. So what we have to do is we create a game controller, create empty. Let's name it game controller. Then we drag and drop the script game here. Ta-da! Hey, no. It's not supposed to be here. Okay, so we choose the letter we want to use this. So we use this to name it for the letter C. So we put it here in the C object right here. And just now I mentioned that I've put serialized field, so we can refer to which letter box that we have designated or set it to be locked into. So we want it to be locked into this one right here, right? So it's the first one here. So we click on C, the game script here, C place, which box is C place? We drag and drop here. This one is C place. This one right here. So we drag and drop. Now let's test this. No, joking. It is not moving because we need to create a box collider so that it can move. So it knows when it is overlapping with the text box. So to do this, we click on the object, the sprite, let's say C, and then we add component, we click on box collider 2D. And then we click on here. You see these green boxes. This is the area of which we will know that it will collide with another object that has a box collider. Make sure to choose box collider 2D because box collider, the other one is for 3D game. So let's just resize it to just barely fits the box, the letter here. Ta-da. Okay, now we already sized it. Now with Control S, now let's try to play. And we can move it. Ooh, yeah. We can move it now. But now, as you can see, it's behind the box. So what we can do is see the box here. We set this to the C here. We set it to 2. So now it will be in front. Ta-da! Now it sticks on the box. But the other two can't because it doesn't have its own script. So we have to do that. But here, the sprite here also needs to have a box collider. So here we need to have a box collider. No, we don't need a box collider actually. It already sticks. So we just drag and drop into the box here. Ta-da! So again, because we need scripts, I emphasize on just use copy pasting is your best friend, and we want to create the same script for the other 2 letters. What you can do is create another script, C# script, and just name it. Let's name it T script. T script. Double click. It's empty, right? So what you can do, double click here, go to the game script, and just from here until here, until before this last bracket here, you copy, Control C, and then from here until here, you just Control V. And the only thing you need to change is, just now we did it for C, so we change C place to A place, a T place. Then we change everything that has the C place to T place. Just change we just change the variable so that the computer recognizes it. So that's it. And then we drag and drop this script to T. Here, again, we drag the box that T should be locked into. Text box 1, drag and drop there. And now, if we click on it, it can move. Oh no, we don't have a box collider. Wait. Again, we have to put a box collider. Scale it. It's starting to get a bit boring, right? But don't worry, we'll be adding music after this. So now, again, can move it. Ta-da! Oh, it's the wrong box. Sorry. I put it in the middle box. I intended to be T, C-A-T, not C-T-A. So the third box, text box 2. So now, if I try to put it in the first box, it won't stick because it's supposed to be here. So the same with A. You just create a new script, C# script. Then let's name it A script. Again, copy paste, but don't do this with your assignments. Okay, copy paste, Control C, double click on A script from here to here, copy paste and just change it to A. Change the variable name, A place, A place, A place, A place. Okay, now Control S. Now, okay, now A, we drag and drop A script to A. We give it a box collider. We resize it. To resize it, just click on this. You can't see right because the background is too bright. So we close that first. Wait. We scale it here. Then, now we should have all 3 letters to be able to stick on their designated place. Yeah. Why can't I move this one? Let's see what's the problem there. Okay. Ta-da! Now that's that. Now it is a bit boring. Of course, every game, every project, you want to have a music. So let's go back to the scene here. Our home scene. Remember, Control S, save it first. Okay, go back home. You want to add background music. What you can do is right click here and click on audio. Click on audio source. Let's name it to BGM. Okay, now we don't have anything right, so we create a new folder. We change it to music, then can import new asset. Create music. Let's import this one. Now to put that to be inside this audio source, all you need to do is drag and drop this into this audio clip. And remember to put this to play on wake. And because this is background music, you need to put it on loop. Now you do this. So now you have music.
Yeah.
But if I click on start, the music ends. So for that, again, we need to create a script. So let's create a new script. For that, we don't want the music to stop. So we create new C# script. We call it don't destroy. So we double click. On this script. Now, what we want to do is we declare the object. We want to create a game object for it. So we create a private static. Don't. I want to name it don't destroy. No. We need to be the same as the name of the script. Don't destroy. Wait. Instance. Now, meaning instance meaning the background music is equals to 0. So we don't want void update and start for our use case here. So we call void awake because we want the background music to play on awake. So then we want to check If there is no background music at the moment, we type if instance uh, exclamation mark, which is false, is not equals to null, which is meaning there is background music playing on the background, and instance is not equal to this, which is the background music that we have set, then we want to destroy that background music, the other background music that is playing. So only one background music is playing. So we type destroy bracket parenthesis this dot game object, and then we put semicolon, and then we want to return the value semicolon. Else we put instance equals to this, and then not combine instance but instance. Okay, then I misspelled this one. Okay, wait. Okay, haha. Instance. Okay, and else if not, don't destroy unload this the game object, semicolon, and then we save, and then we put that, we go home to the scene, go home, and then we click on the did I forget to save? Oh, I forgot to save. Okay, again, audio source, BGM, music. Again, saving is emphasized, Control S, not you lose all your progress. So again, let's search for the script, the don't destroy script, drag and drop here in the BGM, and then just click on play. Now the background music plays, and if we click on start, it will continuously play in the background. Now let's clean up some things, save. Let's put the order layer to 2. C also put the order layer to 2. Okay. Now let's try. See? Now, you want to show that if they win. So, what we have to do is create inside the canvas a new image, UI image, and we just want it to be dark. We don't want to have anything color in it. So just, let's say, change it to gray and want it to be transparent. Okay, so let's scale it. Let's scale it a bit, and then I want to put this. Okay. Then put this to default. Let's put this at layer. Layer 6. Sorting layer. New layer, change it to 3. Okay, win layer. Where's this? Okay, right there. Want it to be at the back. Oh, sorry, there's an error. Okay. So there's a bit of a bug there. So let's just forget about this and create. We want a text to pop out whenever we put in the right words. So we click on UI, text, and we just say win here. And then we just click on, we just change it to correct. And let's change it to 80. And just, let's scale it. Let's scale it and click on bold. Let's change the color from black to, let's say, orange. Let's put it here. Okay, now it's there. So now if we click on it, it will appear right away when we start the scene. So we don't want that. We want it to only appear when all the letters are locked. So what we need to do is we need to create another script to lock in place. So we create new C# script and change it to, let's call it win. So the script is very simple. We just need to, we change this. We don't need the start, and we need the start, and we need update. And we just put in serialize field because we want to refer to the object that we have created. Serialize field, game object, win. I will call it win, and void start. Okay, so now win dot set active is false. It cannot be the same. Sorry. It cannot be the same as the name of the script. It will conflict with each other. So what this means is that the game object win is set to false. So it won't appear when we start the game. So this one here, the game object win, won't appear when we start the game. So there, that's that. So let's try to save it. And then we drag and drop it to the game controller. From there, we need to refer to this object win. We drag and drop here. So because we set it to false, it won't appear when we start the scene. But to change it, when we drag all letters in here to appear, we just edit the script. We add a new function. So what we have to do is check if game dot locked and a script dot locked and t script dot lock, then we want the correct word to appear. So what we can do is change it here to true. Then we save. So what this does is it checks if all letters C, A, T is already inside the text box and the student has got arranged it correctly. Then it will show the correct word, meaning it will say correct. So let's try it out. Remember to save your script, Control S, and then play. Let's try it out. If it works, I hope it works. I hope so. It doesn't. Oh, Sorry. Because in the A script, there's a bug. There's a bug in here. Maths position. Okay. Apparently, there's a bug in here. But then, thankfully, I've created a project that is working instead of that one. So let's open the sample project that I've created prior before today that is actually working. Okay, let's first import. It takes time to open it. So sorry for the bug. I think we don't have the time to look for the bug, but then I can show you the sample that is working because the code seems okay, but then apparently there's some kind of a bug in here. It is quite that's a quite stressful line, let's say. Okay, so this is the one I've created prior. So what we can do is, if I drag and drop C into A and T, it will show correct. So that's the intended thing that I wanted to do. So the same goes here. C, A, T. But apparently A is not working, unfortunately. And that's all. I think that's the simple project that I have to show today. I think that's all for today, the simple introduction. Yeah, I think that's all for today. Thank you. Sorry it took so long. So yeah, sorry for any bugs or any problems that have emerged from the presentation. I think that's all. Thank you.